Wake up, Big Sonic! Big Sonic, I just had an epiphany, Big Sonic. Well, what is it, Small Sonic? Big Sonic, I had an epiphany. I was outside and I was walking through town, Big Sonic, and I had an epiphany, Big Sonic. I was walking through town and I realized that everybody else is wearing like business suits and I'm not wearing anything, and I was like running around and they were all looking at me funny. Well, Small Sonic, where were you? I was in a certain part. It was like in the middle of a city center area. Well, that makes sense that people go there to earn money and work. That's why they were wearing those business suits. Big Sonic, they all looked at me funny. Why is that? It's because you were kind of like becoming an outlier. You were very distinguished. You had like a different appearance and look. You weren't conforming to that sort of norm in that type of part of the world, in that type of area of the city center. Big Sonic, I felt so ostracized, so different. And back at it, guys. Now, this is going to be such an interesting video because the topic of this video is going to be about becoming the 1%. Becoming the 1%. Now, what am I really getting at with this video, guys? Whoever you are that's watching this, what am I getting at? The topic of this video is going to be about becoming the 1%. Now, this is so important that if you go all the way backwards throughout our history, there's always been very certain individuals that have like completely shook our entire history and completely changed the trajectory of our history in dramatic ways. For example, like again, becoming the 1%. All throughout our history, there's always been a certain small percentage of people that have been very, very influential regarding like revolutions and innovation and like completely remolding their entire society and the succeeding societies and countless civilizations to come. All of these like dramatic changes. There's like, if you again go through all throughout our history, there's always been certain like a 1% throughout, like picture like an entire like society. There's always been like very, very influential people, like the small circle of people in any type of society, and these very small group of people in these societies, they have been quite determining of everything regarding our history. I'll give you a very good example. First of all, think about like, you look at Arabia, you look at like, again, the Prophet Muhammad. Look at like Arabia before the Prophet Muhammad was born and after he was born. Arabia is now completely different. It was completely reshaped by the birth of the Prophet Muhammad and what he was doing in his life and all of his like actions in his life and etc. So the Prophet Muhammad, you know, he was like a 1%er, you know what I mean? He had a completely different like mentality compared to everyone else in his society. He was secluding himself away. He was a 1%er, the Prophet Muhammad. Big Sonic, Big Sonic, Big Sonic. Is it bad to be different, Big Sonic, to have like different feelings and conceptions and understandings of the world around us? Well, Small Sonic, different can mean quite a lot of different things, you know what I mean? You could be a unique person with different characteristics and personality traits. You could be, but that can mean anything. Being different isn't good or bad, it's just different. You could be a serial killer, you could be someone that does homicide, genocide, you could be a Buddhist, you could be anything you want, anything you could think of. There is no good and bad regarding different. Big Sonic, is being different good or bad? It goes beyond morality, Small Sonic, and it's quite a lot of stuff. What do you mean by different? What do you mean by good and bad? Big Sonic, when I was outside, everybody was looking at me funny, Big Sonic. I felt so humiliated, Big Sonic. I just wanted to put a bag over my head. Well, Small Sonic, sometimes you gotta fit in, you know what I mean? Likewise, if you jump to India, the Buddha was a 1%er. He was a 1%er. He was, again, having a different mindset, a different mentality. He was secluding himself away from like India, the common folk in that type of society. He was secluding himself away, meditating under a lotus tree, and he developed a new vision for the world and stuff and etc. And he was like a 1%er, and he was very influential, just like the Prophet Muhammad was a 1%er. Even Jesus Christ was a 1%er in like Israel and like that northern part of like what is now like Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, Jordan, all those like the Levant area, basically. You know, Jesus, he was born there, and Jesus was quite. He was like a revolutionary. Even the Prophet Muhammad was like a revolutionary. The Buddha was kind of like a revolutionary. All these people, they were 1%ers, you know what I mean? But they had like these types of very unique like understandings of the world. They had a different mentality from everyone else in their society, and they changed things so drastically after their lives were up, after they died. They left such a massive impact for the world. And they, look at again Prophet Muhammad in Arabia. It's a completely different thing now, prior to his birth and then after his death. You can look at like the whole like scope of like the Middle Eastern history. It all was completely altered after the life and death of the Prophet Muhammad. Likewise, the Buddha, the whole scope of Indian society to some extent was also like heavily molded and shaped by the Buddha as well. After his life and death, he left such a massive impact on Indian history. And I mentioned like Muhammad, Buddha, and of course Jesus Christ. Even though Jesus Christ, in my opinion, was he really crucified? There's a lot of regarding even Jesus Christ isn't even his actual name. It's like his real name was Yeshua, but anyway, but still, the point remains, like Jesus Christ as well. If what we know about him is true, he left quite a massive impact on his society, and you can still feel the effects today because Christianity has it is like a very influential religion. It's changed the.
Big Sonic, so what should I do to not feel like this again? To be humiliated outside, people like looking at me differently and funnily. Small Sonic. It's it's very simple indeed. There's nothing wrong with being unique, being different and special. Sometimes you might be autistic or whatever you want to call it, or you might have disabilities, or you might be a psychopath, a murderer, or whatever. The only thing here is that you, despite being different, you must still conform to your society. You have to maintain some sort of integrity, follow the rules of your laws and society and etc. Big Sonic, what if if I'm so different, I just go against everything in my society and they have to kick me out? What then? Small Sonic, then you're gonna get kicked out of the society and you're gonna have to chill, and you're gonna learn to chill out then, if that's what you're saying and going with. You can't be too different, but you have to maintain some sort of like
politics and culture of so many different nations for almost 1,000 years now. But anyway, becoming the 1%, you must become a 1%er. A 1%er, you have to be that special person that has his own like understandings of our world and has a unique mindset and mentality. You cannot be a sheep, which is what most people are. They blend into most people just blend into their societies, you know what I mean? Most people don't really want to be too like on the edge, too different, etc. Even though what's so funny about this is that if you look at our history, our entire like civilization, culture, society, it was so heavily shaped, molded by people that were so like almost like secluded away, introverted, people that were like 1%ers that had a completely different mentality to everyone else around them in their society. These types of people completely altered the whole course of their own nations and society and civilization. Even like I mentioned the Prophet Muhammad, I mentioned Buddha, Jesus Christ, even Genghis Khan, if you jump to like Mongolia, Genghis Khan was like just a very obscure person, but he was thinking a little bit differently from everyone else in his society. And what happened? Wow, we know what happened after Genghis Khan was born in Mongolia, after he took up a leadership position, after he was becoming more and more influential. We know what happened. The Mongols just whoosh, they completely bursted out of their like territory. They took the whole world by storm. And you can still feel like some of the effects of their invasions, because they completely like, you can like go to certain countries and still see like the devastation, like the destroyed architecture that the Mongols did and etc. And their blood, they spread their genes so far and wide now in the world. Like a lot of people are descendants of like Genghis Khan now. But Genghis Khan was like a 1%er. He wanted to do away with like some of the traditional like kind of like restrictions of his society. He wanted to like make more like meritocracy, etc. and stuff like that. He wanted to like.
Big Sonic, when I was in that city center area, they were all looking at me like I was like a fish out of water. Small Sonic, because you're scaring them, or you're not. It's like going into a church, but you're wearing a bikini. It doesn't make any sense. There's nothing wrong with being different, but if you're just going to places and kind of like stirring the pot and not really conforming to their expectations, then that's kind of just dumb on you, isn't it? You're right, Big Sonic. Maybe being different isn't bad, but you must still conform to certain aspects of a society and the rules and the regulations. Otherwise, everything just becomes too corrupt. And being different doesn't mean being good or bad. You can be a psychopath and be unique and different in that type of way, but that doesn't mean that you should just do whatever you want. You're right, we still need some conformity. That's right, Small Sonic, but you can still maintain some sort of unique train of thought, mentality, mindset can still be very different, but you must
change certain aspects of his civilization. And what happened after Genghis Khan was born, the Mongolian civilization was so like, it was like so different. It completely took the world by storm, just like the Prophet Muhammad. After he was born, the Arabs, they took the world by storm. After, you know, like Jesus Christ, etc. Maybe, you know, lesser extent there. And the Buddhas obviously was just as influential regarding like culture and history. Becoming the 1%. If you look throughout our history, one of the things you'll come to understand is that all of our history is so heavily like shaped, molded, kind of like crafted by the 1%. There's always been like in our history, in our past, people that were like very like secluded, introverted away. These people that were secluded and introverted, these people that were like uniquely different, that had different like understandings of the world, these people were like, they determined our history now. It's not so funny. And the people that, you know, that's so interesting. Like, if you go all the way through if you go throughout our history, there's always been like the 1%, these like very small group of individuals. They have been so like determining of everything regarding our history, our culture, our society, whatever you want to call it. It all emerges, it all originates from like these very certain like individuals in our past that had a completely different like mentality, mindset to everyone else around them in their society. They were the 1% of their time. And that is what you need to get on board with, guys, that you need to become a 1%er. You need to like develop a more unique mentality, a new mindset, a new mentality, a new conceptualization of the world around you, a new like understanding, whatever you want to call it. You need to become a 1%er, guys. A lot of us, we are like sheeple. We just blend into our societies. You know, if you look throughout our past, our history, the people that were like doing all these important like revolutions, inventions, innovations, they were not like sheeple. They didn't just blend into their society. They had a completely different mentality, mindset. They were like kind of like revolutionaries going against the norms of their society. Genghis Khan, Prophet Muhammad.
Thanks, Sonic! So I should still be unique and different and etc., but I still have to conform and everything like that? Yes, Small Sonic, that's what it's all about. You can be unique, different, whatever you want to call it, but as long as you're not hurting people, you're not like being too disgusting, it's all fine and good and dandy, but you still need to do some sort of conformity to the society. Big Sonic, what if I just do whatever I want, be so different and unique, and just go against everything in our society? Well, Small Sonic, then you're just gonna get ostracized and probably put in jail. So you can't just be so different and unique. You must still have some sort of conformity. Exactly, Small Sonic. Exactly what I'm trying to get at, Small Sonic. You need that conformity, Small Sonic. You can't just be so like different that you're completely turning your society upside down and breaking everything, all the rules. Big Sonic, what if I want to be a psychopath, a serial killer? Then you're going to be put in jail, Small.
Buddha, Jesus Christ, anyone you can think of, these people, they all were they were like 1%ers, you know what I mean by that? 1%ers, they had their own conceptions and understandings of the world. They changed their societies forever. They were revolutionaries. That's what it's all about, guys. You have to become the 1%. You have to become a 1%er. You have to develop your own unique mentality, your own conceptions about the world. You shouldn't just blend into your society, which is what so many people do. Because there's probably so many different parts and aspects to our society that are probably very flawed, but you just can't see it because you're so indoctrinated, and you just can't see past the indoctrination, the brainwashing, and so you just want to kind of like conform to the society around you, even though there's certain parts of our society that really do need to like get changed drastically. But certainly, you know, look through our history, guys. All of our history, it was so heavily molded, shaped by certain individuals. The 1%ers, these like small like 1% of our like of the people back then, they were so determining. These like philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, etc., and the Prophet Muhammad and Genghis Khan and all these other individuals that you can muster up in your head. These guys were 1%ers, guys. They had their own like conceptions, understandings about the world. They didn't just conform to their own societies. They changed their societies forever. That is what it's all about, guys. Becoming the 1%, having your own like conceptual understandings of the world, your own like mentality, mindset, not just conforming to everything around you, being more dominant, being more like a conqueror, leaving your own footprint on the world. You know, Muhammad, Genghis Khan, Jesus, Buddha, anyone that you can think of, the most legendary people you can think of in our history, they were 1%ers. They had their own mindset, their own mentality, they had their own conceptualizations, understandings of our world, and they left such a big ass footprint. And these people, they literally rewrote our history. We live in their shadow now. We live in the shadow of these 1%ers in our past, and that's what it really takes. You have to think about this so carefully, guys. Be a 1%er. Don't be just a conformer to everything around you.
You know what, Big Sonic, you're right. I can't just do whatever I feel like doing. I have to still conform to the society around me, meet the rules and the expectations and the regulations. Exactly, Small Sonic. Now you're understanding what I'm trying to get at. Again, when you went to that city center area, the people, they were looking at you, but that's not because you did anything bad per se. It's just you weren't conforming to that sort of area in that city center part of the world. So what you're saying is being unique and different isn't bad or good. It's very contextual. As long as I conform and maintain some sort of integrity and obey the rules and the laws and meet people's expectations, I could still be unique, I guess. I don't know. It's very, very convoluted, but yes, if you can't be stupid, Small Sonic, you still gotta conform, but there's nothing wrong with being a little bit different, you know what I mean? As long as you're not hurting anyone, that's what I'm really getting at, Small Sonic. Thank you so much, Big Sonic, for your insight.